Addiction can lead to breakdown of communication between family members. And this could be due to a number of factors, such as the person who's dealing with the addiction having denial about their problem itself. It also could be their erratic behaviors, potentially, or in many cases, their dishonesty as they're trying to hide or keep secret their addiction. As a result of this, many family members feel that they are isolated and also alone. And they also may have trouble speaking with each other. This includes not just family members, but also friends and associates of a loved one struggling with an addiction. Hi friend, my name is Bernie from Tiger Resilience, where we offer addiction solutions for family members and friends who are struggling with an addiction. If you have a loved one struggling with an addiction that you care for, more likely than not, you're having some great challenges when it comes to communication. And I'll have to share that in my 27 years experience working as both a clinician, therapist, as well as a program director and clinical director, that one of the most significant problems that I have found from time and time again, working with family members and a person struggling with an addiction, is that word communication, or in better terms, lack thereof in many ways, or miscommunication. And it is such a fundamental understanding because it's not a skill set that just comes naturally, especially when families are dealing with turmoil and are dealing with struggles. Addiction itself creates a whole lot of problems alone, not even bringing into the equation having to deal with communication skills. I'm going to discuss what are some of the challenges regarding this communication problem between family members and friends or loved ones dealing with that individual who has that struggling addiction. First of all, there's an emotional pain that comes into play here. And this is caused by a great deal of issues because family members themselves have an anger, a sadness, in many ways shame. People don't understand that sometimes that addiction is a disease, but they also feel it creates a blemish or a shame to a family. And as a result of that, they feel that they're not wanting to discuss it, not wanting to share it. You know, they also worry about the person's health and safety. If you have somebody struggling with an addiction and a lot of challenges, the emotional concerns come into saying that they'll be home at a certain time and they don't return at that time. Everyone's fear will immediately go to, well, what happened? Has something happened? I know that they might be using again today. They may be high. They could be intoxicated. They could be drunk. They could be hanging out with their friends. We don't know what happened. They could have gotten into an accident. And all these things play through because of an unknown. And this creates an extremely powerful emotional distress within the family members, friends, and relationships of that person dealing with the addiction. And it is a stress that is very difficult for family members and friends to even talk about it within themselves. Another challenge is financial strain. And this is certainly because the individual dealing with the addiction may have obviously been using money for the wrong reasons. If they have any control over any economics, such as control of the bank account or paying bills, there's a concern that some bills might not be being paid because they're using the money for their substance use. They're more concerned with obviously taking care of their addiction and their addictive habit than they might be about, paying a bill off. And then they'll rationalize it and say, well, you know what, I can just pay it off next month. I'll get it caught up. Not to mention about employment. If you are dealing with an intoxicant and you're dealing with an addiction, what are the chances are that that's going to impact your employment? Even your employability if you are not working right now and you're dealing with an addiction. How are you going to be recognized as somebody who's going to be suitable for a job if you're dealing with an addiction and it's putting an incredible strain on the family, because that's what financial burdens do. They absolutely put a strain on the family. I will discuss after these points some personal information that can help tie all of this together from my own personal experience, in addition to my professional experience as a clinician and again as a therapist. So there's also a social isolation, and this is a big one for families specifically, but also for the individual struggling with the addiction. The social isolation comes from family members and friends who don't want to talk about this challenge with other people. It is a shame issue. There is a lot of challenges because people still have a stigma to addiction. They still look at it as a character or moral failing, that it is a choice that they just choose to do these behaviors, they do these wrong things. And families feel stigmatized by this and don't want to talk about it. They don't want to share about it. And the more that they isolate from these challenges, the greater those challenges still continue to become within the family system. Because the challenge here is that the real solution is to be able to talk about about this and ask for help. And if you cannot ask for help, you're obviously going to have some challenges because you're trying to take on something that you don't understand. And in many ways, this social isolation is a big piece to why many families get stuck and are unable to help their loved one who is also struggling with that addiction. Not to mention that they themselves also isolate from not only the family members and friends, but almost all their peer groups as well. And of course, we discussed the fear and uncertainty is also because you don't know what's going to happen. Addiction is a very unpredictable and can be very volatile. In many ways, families live in fear and they are struggling with it. We will discuss this much more in turn in our content going forward regarding communication skills and addiction, but I will want to preface this by saying that if you are currently right now in any harm's way, whether that is financial, physical, emotional, that is creating such a hardship on you and your family that you're unable to maintain even the basics of functions, then you do need to make a decision on what to do, and that may include separating yourself from the addicted person. That is for a safety concern, always. Safety for you and your family will always override any other challenges when it comes to your loved one's addiction. This is not tough love, this is self-preservation. You cannot help them if you are dealing with anxiety and stress and you're burnt out, you're depressed. These issues will absolutely impact that relationship. Enabling behaviors too. Family members unintentionally enable their loved one's addiction by providing financial support. Here, take this, you can go get yourself fixed for right now, helping yourself. This also makes excuses for the behaviors. And the problem with this is that as that individual is getting this addressed and they're unable to really recognize the problem themselves, as enabling is a big issue when it comes to perpetuating the addiction, because until it's really called out and the person can start to learn the accountability with that addiction, they will continue to move forward in that addictive behavior. If you're struggling with any one of these specific areas, please stay tuned to Tiger Resilience, as we are going to be producing content going forward that is going to specifically target the solutions when you're dealing with addiction and communication. These addiction educational content pieces will be produced over the next few weeks, and we will be putting them out on our YouTube channel. Understand that this is one of the most fundamental challenges that families face, and it's important to understand what it is that you need to do and what can you do to help it. We'll be specifically targeting and addressing each one of the issues I just discussed so that families can learn to engage with each other once again. And in addition to that, being a power of influence for your loved one, because that power of influence can potentially assist them into getting the help that they need. If they're struggling with that addiction, that's what you're going to be able to do. You cannot change them, but you have a power of influence for them. You will learn how to effectively communicate with your loved one utilizing skill sets, principles that we will assist you by showing you through our content we're producing over the next few weeks. You will learn how to listen with the intention to understand your loved one and not to respond to them, and they will do the same for you. We will break down several principles that are necessary in order for you to rebuild relationships that have been broken down, and damaged as a result of those addictive behaviors. We will review all of those individually. You will also learn about the addiction bank account, which is a metaphor for what the emotional toll that addiction and behaviors have taken on the individuals and the families. You'll understand what those withdrawals are and how devastating they are. But we will also discuss the principles of recovery and how recovery deposits are used in order to rebuild broken relationships, as well as kindling new and healthy relationships within the family structure as well as network of people outside. Please stay tuned to our future videos as we go forward into great detail about all of this content regarding communication and addiction and the many challenges that families are battling with every single day. The art of communication is paramount to the success of everything we do in our life, and I'll look forward to sharing this content with you as we go forward. My name is Bernie from Tiger Resilience, where we offer addiction solutions for family members and friends. Again, I thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to review this content. I wish you nothing but the best for today.